Okay, this is very basically we're looking at the zeros and analysis that we did, and basically we're using this framework, which is what, where, how, why. Basically, what variations we observe, and in which channels, where are we finding these variations, and how are we communicating. Then from here we derived the why. Do we have market insights from this, and what is the further analysis that we might need to do? Okay, so basically here you have the four steps. Here, let's go to the what. Okay, you'll see here that we have the summary, okay, the kind of executive summary. The key thing to observe here is that basically we're going to be looking at the what here, okay? Basically, it's very simple. We just copy pasted, okay? Actually, we close this and we copy pasted here all the months, okay, that you're receiving, and you can observe this performance. Copy paste this here, and we basically compare it to the average of the country. Okay, is this the correct 100% correct way of doing it? No, because actually every channel, if we observe in time, might have a different level of 0Z. Okay, 0Z, 0, 1, or 7. But in the end, it's giving you a perspective of what performs better. Okay, then we compare it. Okay, we're basically doing a formula where we're comparing this against the average, and you can have a variation. What do we observe in this variation? That November outperformed other months in terms of 0Z, and that actually February did also in this case, but the data needs to be updated. For example, this example, but we did see negative very clearly September or very clearly January. Okay, so we want to do is basically focus on those bigger areas. We go back to the summary, okay, and we've clearly done the what. What is the what? Positive, November and February. What is the negative? September and January. What are we going to observe now? Now we're going to go down and look at, okay, and here where we're looking at this kind of over 10% is just the variation that you saw from the what, okay. Overall, we're looking at this 10, okay, just a representative figure, or in the other case, we were looking at the minus 23. You can observe those are the data points that works for us. What do we do after that? We look at the where. In terms of where, which channels are we seeing that as a transformation? Okay, what we're going to do is very basically go to one of them. Okay, we're going to look at November 2019. When we look at November 2019, you have it here, Singapore. Okay, you have all the channels. We put in a different color, the direct, let's call it the organic ones, or the non-paid ones and the paid ones, sorry. And then here you have a non-paid, paid. We're observing, okay, that in terms of effectiveness, okay, in terms of weight, obviously it's basically the absolute number. You know, you see where the biggest bang for your buck, or the biggest impact, sorry, overall on the business. And then effectiveness is basically a comparison between the zeros of that channel and the average. Is this the absolute correct way of doing it? You might observe and say, actually, I prefer to compare against direct across the company. You might compare it to other stuff, but the important thing here is that overall, all of the absolute opportunities that we got, 42% came from non-paid channels, 41% came from paid channels. In terms of impact, let's say weight multiplied by effectiveness, okay, you get that 30% positive impact of unpaid channels, and a negative 9% of paid channels compared to the average zeros. Is this truly negative? No, this always will be additional. But however, in terms of versus the average the country has in terms of 0Z, this is positive. In terms of that, why do we think this has happened? Now, this is when we go back to the summary. Okay, we've detected that this is organic, positive. We look at how we're communicating. We go to Singapore. And this is a little bit of a tiring exercise, but what we did here is basically, I think we can look at just a part of this, what campaigns we had in that time. Okay, we're looking at November, and this is basically this should be done in a more analytical fashion, probably with a statistical regression, okay, to see how we can break down kind of different messaging here. There's a little bit too much detail, but here you can see the format, the type of content, what is the brand presence, product, or discounted price. And you can see all the variables, and ideally we should be able to create a regression and connect things. But here, kind of on an intuition based, we see that what is the different element here, the customer testimonial by Cherry. We think this might have been the driver of this higher 0Z, because it should drive a kind of consumer that is more interested, that sees the example and decides that this is worthy of uploading the pictures of that extra effort. Okay, very basic. Where do we see the impact? In November and February, positive, 10% above the average. Organic, we see that organic delivers 30% above the average. We believe that we see that our communication is social organic push with testimonial has an additional impact. Our hypothesis, real stories drive higher engagement and reach customers needing the final push. That's why it helps in this kind of later stage of the funnel from the lead generation from people who basically click to people who upload pictures. And what would be a measure here to drive the ambassador program? That would be an action. You can do this in the negative. We did the same for Malaysia. We identified different elements where you can basically read through, but now you already know and see that flow that we're doing.